Thanks for joining us. This is North Coast Perspectives. I'm James Faulk. This week, Humboldt County has seen an increase in the number of cases that has This week, Humboldt County has seen an alarming increase in COVID infections. Wednesday, county health officials announced the biggest single-day increase in local cases, with 10 infections added to the county tally. The next day, however, a new record obliterated that figure with an additional 25 cases recorded, primarily coming from the Hupa Indian Reservation. That's 49 cases this week alone, 17% of the total cases since February. Residents monitor this local total, many wondering if this could be the tipping point. Will we now see our figures skyrocket, as has happened in so many other areas of the country? Of course, these upticks come just as local school districts finalize their plans for starting the new year and debate whether it's safe enough to return students to class. Most local districts have opted to at least start the new school year with a distance learning model, much like we saw at the end of last year, with an option to review that approach in the coming weeks. At least one district, however, has decided to bring kids back into school full-time with some safety measures deployed. Meanwhile, California as a whole hosts 544,000 COVID infections, and a new report from the Associated Press has revealed that we have even more cases than previously known. Because of backlogged testing data and a glitch within the California Reportable Disease Information Exchange, or CalReady, the total number of California infections has been underreported. State health officials are even now trying to untangle those issues and get a more realistic picture of where the state stands. So where do we stand? We simply don't know. Officials say to wear your masks, keep your distance, and stay away from large gatherings. But locally, it seems that fear is growing even as we're expected to continue getting back to normal, whatever that means. In the end, all we can do is take care of ourselves, our families, and refuse to take any risks that make us feel less safe. The rest, we hope, will take care of itself. Next, we have the interview recorded earlier today with a couple who's had to adapt their business practices in order to survive the challenges presented by COVID-19. We are joined this evening by Cerise and Harrison Eibach, a family-owned business, operators Oceana Hook-N-Line Seafood. They join us via Zoom today to talk about their business and how it's had to evolve in the age of COVID in order to stay functional. Are you guys there?
Yeah, we're here.
Well, thanks for beaming in to do this with us today. So first, let's describe what Oceana Hook-N-Line Seafood is. Can you do that for us?
I'm Harrison Eibach, the owner, operator of fishing vessel Oceana at Woodley Island, Eureka, California, and been commercial fishing for quite a while. And I guess I could start by saying that pre-COVID, we kind of had all of our established markets. For us, it was selling most of our catch to high-end restaurants in San Francisco, the Bay Area. We had some of our catch stay local here in the area, but most of it went to restaurants. And that was the vast majority of all of the seafood that we had caught went to restaurants.
And now, obviously, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, and then COVID hit and the pandemic started, and literally everything changed completely overnight. In a matter of days, less than a week, all of our markets came to a screeching halt. Wow. There was nowhere to move seafood. That was in the middle of crab season. We were still crabbing and fishing for fish at that time, and all of our markets just completely collapsed.
Wow. So what did you guys have to do in order to cultivate a market?
Yeah, so we kind of turned to Facebook and Instagram to start accessing the community and letting them know that they could come to the boat and buy fish from the dock. And historically, Eureka has been a port that you could do that at. Not many boats have been doing it in the last few years. So we decided to turn to our community for support, and it's been really positive and overwhelming how much people want to come down and buy seafood, direct from the fishermen.
Can you describe what kind of a challenge it is? I mean, if you go from being a fisherman on a boat and you have an established list of buyers who are maybe in the Bay Area, like you said, how much different is it to actually be on the dock in your hometown hawking your wares? Is it more of a challenge? How does it change your job?
Yeah, the challenge is it's a lot more work. Absolutely. you know, a lot of our fishing trips, they consist of 24 to 48-hour trips. Sometimes we don't get in from fishing until, you know, midnight even. And when we get in at midnight, you know, the boat's in disarray, and we have to tear it apart and get everything all set up for doing dock sales, selling directly to the public. So we'll get very minimal sleep, and we'll have everything all set up, and we'll wake up in the morning, and we'll do our best to try to offer the public some of the most fresh and the best seafood you could possibly get in the area.
Now, did you guys have a challenge initially getting noticed on Facebook? I mean, how did you guys make sure to get the eyes on your product digitally?
Yeah. Initially, we use the sponsored posts where you pay to get your posts kind of out there in your region or your area. And I started also sharing the posts in different groups. So some of our biggest supporters are like the Humboldt Foodies is a food page.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it before COVID, so maybe it was probably there, but that's when I joined and started sharing there, and you know, people started sharing on their own pages, and it just kind of expanded from there. So our posts originally were only seen by like a couple hundred people, and our most recent posts are getting out to, you know, 3,000, 5,000. One of our posts hit like 9,000 people. Wow. So yeah, it's definitely, the word is spread out there with, you know, kind of minimal effort from us. It's been great.
What is the consequence if you go out and you go fishing and you get a hole full of fish and you come back and you can't move the product? What happens?
It's a delicate balance, absolutely. We still also we're moving 95%. Most of our catch is getting moved off the dock, but we still have some other markets. But it's definitely a balance to make sure that you have a home for all of your catch.
So far, we haven't had a problem. We've sold out every trip. I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, right. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so you guys are a husband and wife team. Do you, Cerise, go onto the boat too, or are you sort of the office part of it?
I guess I'm more the office end of it. I don't do the fishing. We have 2 young children, so I'm homebound, but we do bring the whole fam down for the dock sales. The kids are on the boat, and I help with dock sales and do a lot of the managing. We just started doing pre-sales so people can contact me directly. Mm-hmm. And so I'm keeping track of all of that and reaching out to our customers and then, yeah, doing the front part of the boat when people are coming down, yeah, talking to people and taking money and stuff.
It's definitely all hands on deck when it comes to dock sales. Yeah. We have the kids running around. There's myself and Cerise and also 2 crew, and we're all working.
Our amazing crew, yeah, and Andre and Stan.
They're working. We're all working as fast as we possibly can.
Yeah. Now, you know, I mean, it's famous. The fishery business is famous for its challenges for people. I mean, obviously, it's been dwindling on the North Coast for a lot of reasons. Do you think COVID presents an even greater risk to the existing fishermen and could further hurt an industry that's been suffering for a while?
Absolutely, 100%. I would say that the vast majority of the fishing industry is taking a really hard hit here, and I'm not sure that some will even be able to recover. I'm not really sure what the future is going to look like with the industry as a whole. In general, it's definitely taken a toll. Some of the larger processors have definitely had their hurdles. Losing restaurants has greatly affected the overall market of seafood. And we'll have to see what happens with the future. But I would say as a whole, in general, vast majority of fishermen take a really hard hit on this one.
We've been really fortunate to be able to do the dock sales and to have the community support for that, because we know several boats that are not fishing right now because they don't have a market to sell their fish to. So we've just been really lucky, I guess.
If someone in the community is interested in supporting boats like yourself or even your fishery, how can they do it? What should they do to help fishermen stay afloat?
One thing I think is, asking your markets where they get their fish from and kind of asking for local fish. I think that could be a first step. And in addition to coming down to the docks and, buying directly from us is to start talking to the people that you get your fish from, and finding out where they're getting it.
Yeah. What's your Facebook page? Is there a link that we can send people to? Yeah,
it's Oceana Hook-N-Line Seafood. Hook-N-Line is all one word. You can, even if you don't have a Facebook page, you can just Google us, and our Facebook page is available to people who don't maybe belong or have a profile on Facebook. And our phone number is listed on there, and we're also on Instagram. You can find us there too.
And now, what kind of fish are you guys selling these days?
I mostly focus on ground fish, is usually what I like to focus on here at home. And ground fish mainly consists of rockfish, lingcod, Pacific halibut, and sablefish.
Also known as black cod. Sable.
Yeah.
Our last dock sale, we had all of those available, and Pacific halibut, because we've been there's a few, usually only a couple very short opportunities to fish for Pacific halibut, and this year we've also been lucky to have several. So we had Pacific halibut this last time, and we will have it in at least one more or two more dock sales.
Interesting. Now, the last question I wanted to ask you about is sort of how all this has impacted your guys' family. You mentioned that you were a teacher before, but that you won't be going back this next year. Is that because of COVID? And how are you handling all those competing responsibilities?
Yeah, my son, we said our son is going into kindergarten, our daughter's going into second grade, and their school has chosen full distance learning, which I fully support. And because of the struggles that we had at the end of last school year with me teaching from home and trying to teach my children as well during, those prime hours of the day when you can, it proved really challenging for me. So this next year I need to step away from my teaching position so that I can support my children full time, which is a hard decision to make on one hand, and on the other hand, got to put our family first. And we're really lucky to have this. Harrison's business has always been the bread and butter for us. So having, like he said, all hands on deck now, me working side by side with him and having the kids involved too, it's going to be an interesting but fun year, I think.
Absolutely. And as a father myself, work like that can help bring a family together, I think, if everyone's on the same boat, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the kids love it, and the community, they talk to the customers and stuff, and so at least they're getting some interaction with people during this time.
Yeah, which a lot of people miss, for sure. Well, that's pretty much all I had for you. Is there anything else you'd like to mention?
Not really, just, huge thank you to our community for supporting us, and, keep coming out and like and follow our stuff, and so we can get seen more on Facebook. We really appreciate it.
And thank you very much for having us.
Yes, this has been great.
Now, thanks for coming down. I'd like to commend you guys on thinking outside the box to keep your business going, and we'll see you again.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day. Tonight we have yet another installment from our ongoing series on the Waterfront Recovery Treatment Center and its founders' effort to bring accessible drug and alcohol treatment to everyone in Humboldt County. This week, they point out that increased investment in treating addiction is the only answer to combating a problem that has impacted nearly all of us.
If you're going to end up in one of our houses, you have to be actively pursuing bettering your life. You have to be pursuing school or employment or one of those things, taking care of your medical appointments and all the things that you're going to need to maintain that foundation.
We'll help you enroll in school. We'll help you make sure that you get to Uplift so you can find a job. And then when they leave, getting general relief, so they can support themselves like in sober living environment, which we have too.
We're not treating people like children. We're not coddling anybody here. We treat people with dignity and respect and like adults, and you're expected to act like an adult. There's a misconception in the community, or not a misconception, but there needs to be some clarity on certain things. One is, you've heard like they need to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, which is wonderful. Like for me, I had a history of substance use, but I also had parents that worked. The folks we have, it might be generational substance abuse, generational dysfunction of not being able to work. So those things are learned in your environment. You know what I mean? Like work and all of that. And if they never had it, it's up to us to instill that in them. I think people feel bad about using taxpayer dollars. And I understand if your house is getting ripped off and your tires are getting popped or things are getting stolen out of your car or what, or you've been, I get it. I get all of that. But people need to understand, without programs like ours, without people like Betty Chin or the Rescue Mission or places like Crossroads and HRC and Humboldt County AOD, it will only get worse. This isn't a problem that's not, it's gonna be here. People love drugs and alcohol. People love to escape. People are gonna be homeless. For us to do something about it, you need to invest in it, but you need to invest in programs that work. If people prove that they're not working, then maybe that's not the best investment. Tough decisions need to be made, because there is stuff that's outdated. There are things that don't work. But for people, for businesses and entities that are showing positive results, it's in the best interest of the community to support it.
Humboldt County Health Officer Teresa Frankovich addressed this week's startling spike in local cases, largely from the Hoopaw Reservation, and described how the county has been working with health officials there to address the problem.
Well, I was just going to briefly mention that we, obviously have seen some increase in cases, and part of that is due to an emerging cluster of cases in Hoopaw that has been reported by Hoopaw to the media. I just wanted to emphasize that local public health has a partnership with the medical clinic in Hoopaw and the tribe. We actually provide contact tracing and work with them quite closely to identify and help to decrease transmission, identify cases, and work to get those individuals who are ill tested, get contacts tested. And so we actually have a very good system to be able to do that. I have been in frequent communication with Dr. Eva Smith, who is the director of the clinic there, and our partnership predates this cluster of cases. I've also reached out to the California Department of Public Health and the California Office of Emergency Services to let them know what's going on in anticipation that we may need some additional resources just to help us handle this effectively, depending on how this cluster of cases evolves.
Frankovich described how test results from Hoopaw have to travel to Eureka to get vetted, and how that additional time can complicate their immediate inclusion in county totals.
Hoopaw residents are Humboldt County residents, and they are represented in our case counts. That being said, they don't necessarily appear on the same day because there is a process. If testing is done locally in the clinic in Hoopaw, then those results have to be sent to us. We have to sort of vet those results, and then we report those out when we have identified those as confirmed cases. And so there is sometimes a time lag, but the cases do all get reported out into our county data and get reported to the state through the surveillance system. As we've stated since the beginning of this, it is entirely possible that at any point during this pandemic, we may need to step back, either at a statewide level or a local level. And so, yes, it is possible. It just gives me one more opportunity to sort of say that that's why we really are talking about all these prevention measures. The use of facial coverings, the distancing, the not gathering, the limiting travel, so that we really can impact how many cases we accrue and how quickly that happens.
This week, Eureka Police Chief Steve Watson and Commander Brian Stevens of the EPD addressed the ongoing investigation into an officer-involved shooting on July 23rd. EPD released video footage from the incident, the 911 call, and also described the investigative process. On the evening of July 23rd, John Seeger of Eureka was shot and killed by Eureka Police after a prolonged standoff. At a little after 5 p.m., police were alerted that a man was threatening suicide at a home on the 2800 block of Lowell Street. He was allegedly making these threats via cell phone text message, and the officers were told the man might be in possession of a gun.
I am Captain Brian Stevens, Investigations Division Commander of the Eureka Police Department, and I will provide a brief overview of an incident that occurred on July 23, 2020, beginning at approximately 5:16 p.m. Eureka Police Patrol officers were dispatched to 2806 Lowell Street on a report of a suicidal subject at this location. The reporting party stated John Seeger, a resident at this location, had texted her a picture of alcoholic beverages and a handgun and was making suicidal statements.
While officials said they are waiting to draw any final conclusions on whether the shooting was justified, the video released does show the suspect pointing a loaded weapon at police. The following video footage may be disturbing to some viewers.
He took 3 steps toward the officers, swung his right arm up, and then leveled the handgun at the police car where 3 officers were located. 4 officers fired in response to the threat presented. Officers on scene called for medical support, which had been staged nearby. Mr. Seeger was loaded onto an ambulance and transported to St. Joseph Hospital. A loaded operational handgun was located adjacent to Mr. Seeger.
As Captain Stevens shared, at our department's request, the Humboldt County Multi-Agency Critical Incident Response Team, or CERT, was immediately mobilized to investigate this incident. CERT is comprised of representatives from various Humboldt County law enforcement agencies who receive specialized training in the handling of critical incident investigations, such as officer-involved shootings. The Humboldt County District Attorney's Office is participating as a co-lead investigating agency in the CERT investigation, along with the primary and assisting law enforcement agencies. The completed CERT investigation will be submitted to the district attorney for review and to ultimately determine if any criminal liability exists. The Eureka Police Department will also conduct a parallel internal administrative shooting review. We are committed to transparency and accountability to our community and to each other. This internal review will be thorough, comprehensive, and objective. When the investigation is complete, these records, including the report, investigation, findings, audio and video recordings, will all be fully disclosed to the public, pursuant to the authorization of Senate Bill 1421 and Assembly Bill 748.
Captain Patrick O'Neill, Sergeant John Omi, and Officers Patrick Bishop, Andrew Ensley, and Brian Wilson were involved in the incident and have been placed on administrative leave pending results of the investigation. We'll be back after this short break.
This is my family.
I'm gonna give you just a little snippet of my family. Hello.
My grandpa and I have this unspoken bond.
I decided to document seeing my dad.
We became a family.
I have a biological family, but the family you choose love you unconditionally.
I'm James Faulk. This is North Coast Perspectives. Last week, we highlighted a new project to collect and publish local poems that center around the COVID crisis and related quarantine. The collection is called Behind the Mask, 40 Quarantine Poems from Humboldt County. Tonight, we feature Eureka poet Margot Genger and her poem, Blame.
Blame. I'm Margot Genger. Blame is a cage, a trap, the anti-enlightenment. The Hatfields and McCoys have nothing on us. We sow poison, throw bombs that ricochet off walls cast in cement. Blame China. Blame the World Health Organization. Blame Obama. We fight back, but how? Blame? What else is there? Love isn't working. Blame Trump, child, narcissist, liar, mentally ill. 90,000 dead, 60,000 his fault. Of course, perfect attack. But what if we said nothing? or if we shot him. And they shot and we shot, would the blame end? Disease is now political. Hugs fall into a right or a wrong. The pandemic infects our bigotry. It's an exponential visual soul sickness. We cannot look at ourselves and we cannot look away. So let's blame the ancestors, the white ones, the selfish, self-righteous, if you can get it, you can have it, founders of an upstart democracy where Black people served white ones so as not to be whipped or worse. 240 years later, while brown people get deported, more and more Black people get shot. So the lily white can spend all those greenbacks, regardless of the land, the air, the water, regardless of morality, kindness, generosity, life. Now, though, we've got a pandemic. White is pit against white, a deadly proposition, devoid of compromise, harmony a pipe dream, the stakes so high. Watch out, all you Black folk, brown folk, old folk, women folk. Whitey is afraid and he's gonna blame you, and I blame him. I turn off the news, write this poem that will change no one. Write another one about the good in the world wherever it is that I so hope will prevail.
Thanks, Margot. Eureka Mayor Susan Seaman, during her weekly address this week, promotes a local arts festival that will maintain a socially distant standard and spoke to the recent spike in COVID cases.
This weekend, we'll be kicking off our third annual Street Arts Not Really a Festival. While Henderson Center will be transforming to an outdoor art gallery over the next week with an addition of 12 new murals, all in-person events have been canceled. There's still plenty of ways for everyone to enjoy being engaged from the safety of their home. Visit the Eureka Street Art Festival website to find videos where you can get to know the artists. You can also find ongoing updates to show the progress of the murals with daily virtual mural walks. If you do happen to be in the Henderson Center area, many additional precautions are being taken to keep artists and the community safe. Find out more at eurekastreetartfestival.com. And if there's a week we can use a little pick-me-up, it's this one. With 25 confirmed county cases of COVID-19 in one day, yesterday marked the largest increase in cases in a single day. This is just continuing to remind us we need to stay vigilant.
That's it for tonight. Thanks for joining us. Remember, stay tuned, stay informed.